One. Hello everyone and welcome to This Week in Net. It's the March 29th, 2024 edition. And this week we have Easter week coming up, so happy Easter. We're going to talk about email security, but also we'll have a teaser about our upcoming Developer Week at the end. I'm João Tomé, based in rainy Lisbon, Portugal, and with me I have, for the first time in the show, Oren Falkowitz, a leader of our security team. Hello, Oren. How are you?
How's it going? It's rainy here in Washington D.C. where I'm at also, so we share that today. Yeah.
We share that, the rainy perspective. Where does this show find you?
Um,
Washington, D.C., you just
Washington
said.
D.C. Yeah, it's okay.
You're
Yeah,
based there, right?
that's where I live in Washington D.C. Yeah.
You're coming up on your second Cloudflare anniversary, so congrats. It was on April the 1st, 2022.
Yeah. It was on April the 1st, 2022 that Area One, which is a company that I founded and ran for many years, was acquired by Cloudflare. And I know the team has had a great time integrating the product and supporting customers and building all sorts of new, really great things on the power of the platform and the network that have been developed to provide a lot of value in stopping attacks and phishing attacks, which we'll talk about, continue to be a really challenging problem, and we're really excited about the progress we're making around the world.
Actually, at April the 1st, Cloudflare usually launches important things on April the 1st. There's some tradition there from the past. We launched our DNS resolver, Quad 1, 1.1.1 on April the 1st, 2018. So a while ago, Area 1,
Oh,
April the 1st,
yeah.
2022, right? So, and next week we'll have Developer Week starting on April the 1st too. So
I love it.
there's
I love symbols and numbers. It's a great thing. We've got a lot of ones and zeros behind us, so it's great. So
For those who don't know, can you share with us a bit of your experience, your amazing experience in the field, your background also?
yeah, my pleasure. So I mean, I originally grew up in Florida, and I came to Washington about 20 years ago, and I started to work within the Department of Defense at the National Security Agency. And I started there as a ballistic missile analyst, and my job was to analyze and assess the capabilities of other countries and their abilities to launch, missiles. And I was asked to join a team that was responsible for hacking computers. And so I did that for a bunch of years, which was a really exciting new endeavor. It's not something that I studied in college, but having a background, in computers was something that our team took to like really, really well. And we had some great, leaders and folks helping us along the way. And then spent some time in the computer science research part of the National Security Agency at the United States Cyber Command, and eventually left to start a business and find my way here through that acquisition. So super exciting journey along those many years.
Before we go to the email security part specifically, and also the blog post that I published with your help and the Area 1 team help this week, in terms of that experience, is there like something that people don't know and they should regarding the places you've worked and the experience you gathered in a sense?
Well, all places are kind of the same. They're about the people that you work with. And so I've
Hmm.
been fortunate across my life to work with people who are really smart and dedicated and talented, and who are really focused on a mission. And that mission, initially when you're working for the government is to protect your country and to protect, our interests around the world. But that continues. And the great thing about the work that's done at places like Cloudflare is that mission continues, and to make a better internet, to support customers, and to support all the different you know evolutions and sort of advances that are happening, whether it's with artificial intelligence or quantum computing or just regular business, running across the wire. It continues, and so it makes it exciting to dedicate your time to building tools and technologies that have positive outcomes. And so that I think that's the sort of the similarity, across all things.
Also, with that experience for a number of years, is there something that surprised you more recently in terms of where did this area went to that wasn't expected like 10, 15 years ago?
The thing that's surprised me over the years is how the challenges remain consistent, right? And that no matter how much the world advances, right, great rocket developments that are happening, the great sort of leap aheads and all sorts of spaces like biotech and advanced materials production and computing and so forth. It's still the same, problems that people are challenged by, and that's the part that's surprising, to me. People have spent billions of dollars, but perhaps the results haven't necessarily gotten any better. And that's the thing we try to focus on and try to correct and educate people on. It's what makes the Radar product so powerful, is it really unleashes the man behind the curtain and says, look, with a large point of view, with a large set of visibility, and with the ability to analyze that data, you can actually better understand what's happening, which informs decisions. And the reason to utilize data in the world is to not get smarter, right? It's not in my view useful to accumulate knowledge just to accumulate it. The purpose of intelligence or knowledge is to be able to change the way you act and to change the outcomes that you're challenged with on a daily basis.
On the beginning of the blog post that I'm mentioning, and I'm sharing it in a bit, one of the things that we highlight, it's a general percentage that is used for a number of years, I would say now, that comes from CISA, that notes that 90% of cyber attacks start with phishing. So it's all about emails is still pretty much in play in terms of vulnerabilities in points of entry in this area. For those in this area that want to understand a bit more, why do you think phishing is so powerful still to this day?
Well, some would argue that the thing that drives human civilization are stories, right? And so when you think about the things that propel humankind from being in a village to building a city to building a nation to doing whatever, it's some sort of a story. Money is a form of a story. Government is a form of a story, and so forth. But it turns out that stories, right, and our innate kind of like curiosity are the exact thing that can work against you, right? And so in the case of something like cybersecurity or phishing, it's the authenticity or the story that the human, the person just like you and I, is being confronted with, that's saying like, oh, am I supposed to pay this bill? Am I supposed to respond to this person? Am I supposed to click on this link? In almost all the cases where I've seen significant damages, when you really go back and you talk to the people or you understand like what's happened, not only statistically is it that 9 in 10 times phishing was the root cause, but the person who clicked the link, downloaded the file, sent the money, they're just like trying to do their job correctly. And that is what keeps these things together, right? It's that story that is at the heart of being a human, that is both positive in driving advancement, but also in this case can be a negative.
Makes sense. Actually, I wrote a blog post also, I think last year, regarding the ways that hackers have to try to deceive, to show in the story that in the email they tell trustworthy stories for people to click. If they know more, they will fool you in a more easy way. And now there's AI, generative AI, also in play in terms of making sure that things seems a little bit more uh, um, trustworthy even when they're not. Um,
The word that I would use, sorry to interrupt, would be
go-
authentic, right?
hmm,
Sorry, but I think really at the heart of it, it's something that's relatable, right? It's authentic, and what I've seen is that you can really break this idea of authenticity down into two forms. It used to be 10, 15 years ago, you'd say, oh, the grammar was a little off, and that's a form of like it didn't seem real, right?
hmm.
And what AI, does is it just allows things to be more authentic, right? A little more like less prickles on the back of your neck, less, less obvious, that something might be amiss. But that authenticity is really comes in two forms. It's usually a visual. It looks, what you're being confronted with is something that looks like people you trust or brands that you trust, large banks, government institutions, or the people that you work with and trust, your colleagues, your family, and so forth. And that's kind of it, right? On some level.
Absolutely. Let me share my screen here to show the blog post we were mentioning. um, from .com to .beauty, the evolving
Mhm.
threat landscape of unwanted email, phishing email in a sense. We had this blog post also last year, the top 50 most impersonated brands in phishing attacks, and new tools to protect your employees from them. This was already highlighting at that time the fact that there's a lot of brands that hackers try to mimic: AT&T, PayPal, Microsoft, DHL, Meta, Verizon, Adobe. So those brands, in a sense, are something that hackers try to use to bring that authenticity, that trust you were mentioning specifically, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, when you look at the TLDs, right, the dot beauty, right, the dot code, the dot I, right, you and I are old enough to know that like not that long ago that was weird, right? But it's become
Yeah,
cool. I mean, every company I see in my inbox is dot AI now, right? I mean, nobody would do
true.
that
Yeah.
before, or it's been, there's so many dot coms that were taking people try to spell out things like, falcowit.tz, right? To make it,
Hmm.
it's become kind of cool to have vanity URLs. And so the kind of the normalization of it, there's nothing wrong with it, right? But the more frequent or the more normal it becomes, the more likely it is you don't think that it's suspicious to receive one of these, and it adds to authenticity we're talking about. That's kind of like the first step to
Hmm.
it, right?
One of the things we noticed doing the research for this blog is that the fact that, of course, .com still accounts for 67% of all spam and malicious emails in terms of volume. But in terms of percentage of emails that are sent from a specific TLD, like beauty, like .uno, .best, .top, hair, monster, wiki, uh, those have high percentages of emails that are spam and malicious, according to our data. And all of those TLDs are recent, since 2014, some since 2021, for example. So there's this element of hackers apparently using recent TLDs also because they have potentially more domains available, so they can put like Microsoft.beauty, or they can use the domains in a sense that are more available in that regard, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's just a shift, right?
Hmm.
Um, as another example outside the TLD, but that might resonate with people is 5 years ago, there wasn't really a thing called TikTok, right?
Hmm.
As you showed in the other blog post, we talk about brands specifically, but as TikTok becomes popular, it's not surprising to see attackers do TikTok related or based campaigns. And so, there's a strong correlation in temporal, like world events happening and how attacks happen,
Hmm.
and there's also a strong relationship between the things that we come to be common, tactics, techniques, um, cultural related items. And that's exactly what you're seeing the data play out here. What's most interesting about the data is how specifically it plays out. So we can say that sort of theoretically, like, oh, these are happening, but the data really shows where those trends are most acute and how people can prepare themselves and be preemptive towards stopping the damages.
Exactly.
One thing I often tell people is it's not possible to stop there from being attacks, right? Like
Hmm.
anyone can launch an attack. It's very possible to prevent damages, right? And that's really the
Absolutely.
goal is not to make a world where there's no such thing as a cyber attack. It's to make sure there's a world where there's no cyber damages.
Exactly.
And yeah,
It's not a matter of when you're going to click on the wrong link or something like that. It's a matter of what happens when you do the error that will happen, right?
yeah,
If you mitigate.
yeah, when your systems are confronted with receiving those messages, do they know how to filter them out? When you click on them, do they get isolated into remote browser isolation? Do you have the right other controls elsewhere? Is your data protected, right? And so forth. All these layers, all these sort of zero trust concepts, when they come together, you get the end result, which is not having damages, right? There's still an attack, but you've prevented there from being a damage. And there's many analogies, for this, like bringing an umbrella outside when it's cloudy, taking a vaccine, when it's flu season, and having a lock, on your house. I mean,
Hmm,
anyone could just like
absolutely.
bulldoze their way through the window, right? But all of these strategies mitigate damages, and that's the essence of being preemptive, and something we think we show in the data really reinforces.
That we have some numbers here. In 2022, Cloudflare blocked 2.4 billion unwanted emails, and in 2023, the number rose more than 40% to 3.4 billion unwanted emails. So that includes spam, malicious emails. So that means in 2023, 20%, 26% of all messages processed were unwanted. May that be those categories. And there's also this number here, quite relevant, which is malicious messages, emails were 3% of emails during 2023. And that's this Cloudflare Cloud email security perspective is already when there's some filtering from Gmail, from Microsoft, from other players. So there's also that in play in a sense.
Yeah, one of the things that's really important for people when thinking about this problem is a lot of data analysis, big data, things that folks have been doing for business intelligence and for other purposes, supply chain, logistics, optimization, and so forth. It's really about finding big patterns, big trends, right? Analyzing mass amounts of things, correlating them, and seeing, hey, what's spiking, what's anomalous. In our space, the 3% number is really the key because it's a percentage of all messages. What we're looking for are really small patterns, really the things that don't occur frequently, but they cause the highest number of damage, right? A pebble that causes a tsunami. And so, that is where we want people to be focused on and not satisfied when you say, hey, I blocked, 1 billion of something, but it was all J.Crew catalogs, or it was all Zara catalogs or something to that effect. What really matters are those ones that will cause damage and really the types of expert systems and strategies that are required to make that impact. It can be misleading to stop a lot of things. It's more important to stop the right things. And the data shows, the ability to do both and to recognize both and distinguish them as being really critical.
Here in this section, we actually are mentioning the fact that Freenom, which had several TLDs, top-level domains from Africa, .cf, .ea, had a lawsuit, Meta's lawsuit, during 2023. And after the lawsuit, they stopped new registrations. So hackers stopped also to use that TLD in terms of doing attacks, in a sense, emails, phishing emails. So we can see here that we saw a clear drop in percentage of malicious emails that came from Freenom's TLDs in that sense. So this is a very specific situation, but also one to take note.
Well, but it's a pattern that repeats itself, right? And I think that's what folks can take away and apply to their own business and their own organizational use cases, is that the behaviors and the actions that are being taken in the real world have a direct correlation to how cyber actors, are developing their attacks. Having done that work, on behalf of the U.S. government, sometimes I like to say people, if your vision of a really elite cyber actor is like a Navy SEAL or a guy with like night vision goggles and like really tactical, this is you're looking at it kind of like a pudgy dude, that's a little affable. And what that means is that you're really looking for opportunities that seem to blend in and to be authentic, and the data just continues to reinforce that lived experience that I had, and in exposing it and keeping it fresh through products like Radar. What we try to do is give people the tools to inform their next steps, right? Inform the way that they view the world and how they make decisions and apply resources to the larger problem for a positive outcome.
Absolutely. This is the situation of you were mentioning try to be authentic. That's something hackers try to do. And in this case, .gov was spoofed in a sense, like .org also in this situation. So it appeared high in our list. And there's methods to try to avoid those email spoofing situations, in a sense.
Absolutely.
We also have some perspectives there. One of the things I want to ask you is related to the different threats. There's different threats like link extortion, identity deception, credential harvester, brand impersonation, ASN reputation. There's a lot in terms of different threats. Any that currently people should be more aware of, in a sense?
Yeah, I like to, what we do is we'll often break out the threats to add context, right? To help
Hmm.
people understand, what their problem is. But in their simplest form, there's really three threats, right? There's clicking on links, right? Credential harvesting can be a version, of that as we've broken it out here. There's files, right? Malware, and then there's non-file, non-link based things, business email compromise, phishing. The big takeaway, as people are concerned about many different types of things, is that really clicking links is by far the most successful and the most attempted way to get people to do things. And I think that's important because it should really inform the layers and the approaches that are being taken. Only by really understanding that, that that almost three quarters, if not more, of the attacks are really link based, some form of link based attack. You know, that helps you really focus and say, okay, malware is a thing, ransomware is a thing. I'm very, very concerned about those, and I'm not ignoring them, but I need to make some effort around how we're going to handle link isolation and link-based detections and so forth. And so each of these should really just be um, informative to what's the next step, right? And really helping
Hmm.
shape the view. And that's that's what my primary takeaway from this is.
Makes sense. Also in this blog post, there's this mention, a specific mention that I want you to elaborate a little bit more, which is related to the way that attackers use visual or organizational phishing messages. What types of differences are there in terms of those visual or organizational perspectives?
Yeah, I mean, so as we were talking about earlier, the attacks can really be thought of as being authentic, right? And that authenticity is like, hey, if you receive an email and it looks like something you're expecting to receive from your bank or from your security team or from your government, it smooths the process of like, well, yeah, I guess they do need my driver's license picture or something, right? Like there's so many things that happen in like adulting that you're kind of are like unaware of sometimes
True.
that
A
if it
package
just
that just arrived. Oh,
yeah,
I was
like
waiting for
packages
a
show up all the time.
package.
Like I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I guess I did order that thing, like I mean, we're kind of just roaming through and so visual cues we accept them every day. I mean, when I'm driving down the road, I'm just basically following visual cues, red lights, yellow lights, green lights, yield signs, pedestrian crossways, and so forth, right? And so these visual cues are something that are just like innate to what we do, right? Fire means bad, right? And so forth.
Hmm.
So using brands that you trust or common or things that you're likely seeing in other scenarios, it helps, right? It helps the attacker blend and to be successful. And the second is, well, yeah, I mean, we have colleagues, we have families, we have people that we trust that we expect to see things from, and you don't expect those to be intertwined with like, global, global cyber,
Exactly.
challenges. So, that is, that's the other component to it. If your colleague, is like, hey, I need you to call me, you're like, I mean, I guess, yeah, it makes sense. He's my colleague. The organizational ones are slightly more fraught because we have a sense of people that's different.
Hmm.
So, yeah, if you were to say to me, could you send me $1 million? I'd say like, I mean, well, one, I don't have $1 million to send you, and two, that seems weird, right? But there are lots of things in between that are a great way to get started. And when we're talking about these phishing attacks, we're talking about starting, right? This is the
Hmm.
initial foothold to build. And so it doesn't need to be grand typically, it needs to be enough to get that foothold into the network and then to go further. And that's why you see this persist so successfully.
Makes sense. In terms of what companies, general users should expect this year in terms of where is this area going, and also in a sense how our protections are there and are evolving in a sense with the industry.
I think what general users should assume is that, and I think you shared some of this, is that the top brands will be the top, themes of campaigns, but also those will change in two ways. They'll change annually based on which brands are more popular and which aren't.
Hmm.
Some organizations cease to exist, some become more popular. Like I mentioned TikTok earlier, like if it wasn't a thing, there's no thing. As TikTok becomes popular, or even now as it's embroiled in some controversy here in the United States, that makes it more top of mind and more authentic. And then regionally, the authenticity shifts as well. There are brands and companies and relationships that are specific, right? You might see a different set of banks in Europe, like Deutsche Bank or Lloyd's of London, that you wouldn't like. Most people in America be like, "What is Lloyd's of London? What is Deutsche?" Like I don't have anything to do with Deutsche Telekom. If I received a Deutsche Telekom email here in the United States, I think that's so strange. But to many people in Europe, like that's a big deal, right? They're the
No,
AT&T
exactly.
of
That's
Europe,
normal.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so normal. And so that's the dynamic. There's a little bit of regionalism, and there's a little bit of annual, changes that happen, but ultimately the concept, is consistent.
No changes there in terms of those methods. But of course, we started this conversation with the generative AI perspective, where it's a little bit more easy with that to deceive, to try to be authentic. So that could also be at play this year in terms of awareness, right?
From my point of view, what the generative AI allows for is a greater volume. It
Hmm.
doesn't really advance the problem any further.
Hmm.
You and I could easily write a very credible, authentic looking message, but it takes time to write 1,000 of those or
Hmm.
10,000 of them, 100.
True, true.
Really, what you see the expansion here is the speed and the volume that you can do it with. But the techniques to stopping them remain the same. And in some ways, actually, the more volume you see of a thing, it goes more into what we were talking about. It takes something that was a small pattern, a couple
Mm.
emails that were done in such a way, and it actually makes them larger and easier to detect. So I see it as two sides of a different coin. There's both opportunity and challenge in the process, but mostly we see opportunity. And we see that the more there's sort of like a laziness that gets put into it, and that the more lazy you become, initially you might have more success, because if you send today, the data is, I think if you send 10 emails, there's a 90% success rate of like one person clicking on one of the emails. So if you're
Mm.
able to go from 10 to a million emails, that's a lot more clicks, that's a lot more companies. But I think the patterns become larger, and with the types of visibility, network, data analytics, and enforcement capabilities that we bring to bear, you can actually stop them a lot faster than you might have. You might have not noticed that something was going on before, but now, both with the scope of the network and then the scope of how the problem gets exacerbated, you're saying, hey, like we're detecting a thing here, right? So
That's interesting. So even if they can fool better people, at least our systems are a little bit even more resilient because they will do it in more quantities. So
I
that
think
can
I think
help
that's
protect.
definitely the case, and I think
Yeah.
that's why I kind of was making fun of myself a little bit for doing it. I think that to give the hacker or the attacker too much credit is the mistake that a lot of people make. Cyber actors, just like they're just people, they're lazy, they make mistakes, they don't know everything about anything, and that's really the role where technology can come in and smooth that. It might mean that you're successful, or you can be quick to success. The first hour of a campaign is success, the first day. But over the long term, the ability to prevent damages, especially catastrophic damages, is definitely on the side of the defender through the work that you're talking about. That's it, if it wasn't possible, you wouldn't be able to have the data to present it in a chart, right? And so the fact that we're able to have the data is an example of every one of those billion messages that you talked about is a fail, basically, for the attacker. They don't want to get caught, right? And so what
Mm.
we want to do is we want to shrink the time window from when they're able to evade, basically down to a period where damages can't exist. And I think we're continuing to be successful in that, and sort of proving that out through analytic rigor.
And there's always improvements being made with the evolution in terms of our security tools specifically for email in this
Oh yeah,
situation,
no,
right?
yeah, exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
I just look at every one of those detections that you highlighted as a failure for an attack to be successful, and there's way more of those. And what we need to continue to do is um, work and educate people as to what's possible, and to continue to shrink the time gap of detection to basically be one of preemption before there are damages. And I think that's happening, and just continues to get better and better over time.
Do you, before we go, do you remember, and of course we have this protection, Cloudflare's cloud email security. Do you remember a place, even in terms of area one, where a customer, someone wasn't protected, had a point of entry that created a lot of damage, and then they were secure and they didn't have the problems in a sense? Did you see it over and over again happening in a sense?
All the time,
All the time.
all the time.
But do people realize that protection really can make you ease of mind in a very definitive way
Well, what
compared
we
with,
don't want people to do is to become laissez-faire or complacent about it because it's an evolving space. It's what makes it an exciting space for young people to make careers out of, and for people to, to dedicate themselves to. Is that it's evolving, right? It's not a static challenge, but it is. But yeah, people all the time are learning how to have success, right? And that's hard work, and hard work is good work, and it's fun, but you can definitely see the right outcomes, and I can think of that literally over 1,000 examples. So
it's a the constant struggle of cat and mouse in a sense, attackers and the tools, security
I don't
tools
see it as
themselves.
much cat and mouse, not
Mm,
to disagree with the analogy too much,
mm,
but I see it one as more of an evolution of people's understanding of what the problem is. And like I said, when I started, fresh out of school, working at the National Security Agency, people just weren't aware that this was a problem. And sometimes people said, like, I'm just come why, why would someone want to attack me? Like, I am a company that makes ice cream. Like, what's the big deal? Well, it turns out you process 1 billion credit cards and there's a market for selling credit card information. I think the awareness that the problem exists, that the problem is one that impacts everyone from individuals to large multinational corporations to nonprofits to elections, to you name it, makes people take it more seriously. And as more people dedicate time and resources and seriousness to it, you see the problem having more success on the side of preventing things. So it's just part of evolution, and we see this with a lot of things. Microplastics, as a totally random example, will probably be something similar to that. Like, what are microplastics? People start, oh, okay, and then they'll get through it. So not to go too far afield, but I mean, it's just common in our
of course.
society for when you're not aware that something could be an issue, it's hard to know what to do against it. But as that awareness enters the general consciousness and as resources, we're very good as a society for as a civilization for making changes, and those changes advancing it. And it's all predicated on the first thing I mentioned, which is stories and having the right story for people.
Mm,
And the important story in our space is that cybersecurity is a problem that you can solve. It requires a good data to help shape what the next step is, and then the right partners and tools to take actions against them. But it's not something that people should bury their head in the sand in and be afraid of.
sure, makes sense. This was great. Hope you liked it, Oren. Learned a lot.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
And that's a wrap. Everyone, and we're back now with a Developer Week teaser. Developer Week is coming up next week, and I have with me Rita Kozlov, our Senior Director of Product. Hello, Rita. How are you?
Hello, hello. I'm great because Developer Week is my favorite week of the year. So I'm super looking forward to it.
Busy, I would bet.
Definitely busy.
Where does this program find you?
I'm based in New York.
So for those who don't know, we have a lot of innovation weeks during the year, and Developer Week is one of those weeks. And of course, we have this amazing community of developers using our Workers platform. What can we expect for Developer Week 2024, given that it's after Easter and it's also on the week of the April Fool's Day, so April the 1st?
So I should, I guess, first make a disclaimer that even though it's the first week of April, it is definitely not an April Fool's joke. We always love to release new and real products around that week. So April 1st is when we announced actually 1.1.1, Cloudflare's Resolver, right? And many other big announcements. So this is gonna be a full week of those types of things. So what are the makings of a great innovation week or a great developer week? Well, first of all, it's all about developers, right? So there are going to be a lot of announcements about how we're continuing to make the developer experience better and better, how we're making it safer for developers to deploy. And there's going to be some exciting announcements that are really going to be around, removing some of that edge that you can kind of have when you're hitting that deploy to production button that can be quite scary. Alongside with that, we're going to be releasing new primitives to developers. So we're continuously thinking about how do we let someone build a full stack application on us? And that requires a lot of different bits and pieces. And sometimes depending on the use case, it's like a Lego set. It might require that one very particular piece. And so we're going to continue releasing new primitives. We're going to have some products that are going to go GA. Also on the subject of primitives and things that you need to build applications today, AI is becoming just a staple part of every application. So you can expect a lot of AI, some very fine announcements around AI and how we're making Workers AI better. What am I missing? Lots of big exciting stuff.
Dane from our team, Dane Connect, already announced, in a sense, gave a big teaser for the week, mentioning that Workers AI will be out of beta next week. So that's a little teaser there. For those who don't know, just to contextualize a bit, what is Workers AI specifically, and why is it important that it's now generally available outside beta?
So the thing that we've been working on for the past 6 or 7 years since the release of Workers actually is allowing developers to build applications without having to think about their infrastructure, without having to think about optimizing reliability or performance. In the industry, this is something that's generally known as serverless, right? You don't have to think about servers, you think about your application. And the really interesting thing about AI is that we've kind of seen it bring all of these problems back, right? So developers are again thinking about how do I add AI to my application, but how do I manage costs without, sacrificing reliability and provisioning and all of that. And so what Workers AI is, it's a serverless inference platform, which means that you can have access to models, any models in our model catalog, and be able to access those directly either through a REST API or through a worker, right? If your full application is running directly on Cloudflare, and we will take care of the rest. And the same thing extends to our pricing model too, where rather than having to pay for pre-provisioned resources like many clouds force you to, you are really just paying for the way that you're getting value out of it, right? Which is powering these really rich experiences for your customers.
Absolutely. So we already have a teaser of the week. And of course, everyone can check all of the announcements from the week on our blog, blog.cloudflare.com, and also have an hub with all of the announcements on cloudflare.com. Any day of the week that excites you the most? I know it's difficult to choose from different children in a sense, but is there like 1 or 2 days that people should really expect something special there?
It's like you said, we try to make every single day really, really special. I think Tuesday is going to be a big day. Generally we kind of like to ease our way into the week. And then I think actually there's going to be some pretty unexpected stuff on Friday. So, you got to keep that audience engaged all the way through the end.
Makes sense. So that's our teaser. Thank you, Rita.
Thank you, Ja.
Before we go, let us share this video from our Workers team. In a sense, it highlights how Cloudflare's mission is to help build a better internet. It gives clues on what Workers AI is all about and how you can now build entire AI applications on Cloudflare. So here's the video with our Developer Educator Craig Dennis directly from our San Francisco office, and that includes shots in front of our lava lamp wall.
Hey, you look familiar. Do I know you from somewhere? We get that a lot at Cloudflare. Now, chances are you've bumped into us on the internet. We often get, oh yeah, you're that CDN company. You're so fast. It's true. Thank you. Or, you're that security company that detects all those attacks, right? Yep, that's us. All of that. That's all part of what we call our connectivity cloud. We've got data centers all around the globe, and we serve 20% of the websites on the internet. So we've got a pretty good handle on what's happening at all times. That's just part of our story. Our mission for more than a decade now has been to build a better internet. These days, the apps y'all are building are evolving faster than ever. They're pushing the limits of what was possible even a few years ago. This, of course, is largely thanks to putting the power of AI into the hands of developers. And as builders pave the way forward, Cloudflare is right there helping make AI experiences better, safer, and more reliable. I'd love to show you real quick how we're combining the power of AI with our connectivity cloud to create a better internet for everyone. Now, if you've been keeping your finger on the pulse of developer tools, you might already be familiar with Cloudflare Workers. It's our powerful serverless platform that's been revolutionizing the way that we developers build. But hey, if you haven't heard about it yet, no worries. It's possible that this gem has slipped under your radar. I mean, over 1 million developers can't be wrong, so my hunch is you should probably know about it. Workers is all about speed. I'm talking low latency, blazing fast responses right at the edge of the network. Also, it's incredibly fun to build with. Imagine bringing your ideas to life in no time, deploying your code with just a few clicks, and seeing your creations go live in seconds. Deployed to all the regions. Region Earth. It's quick, it's scalable, and again, it's a whole lot of fun. There's so much innovation to be had, all sorts of tasks that we literally couldn't do before. It's a bonkers time to be a builder, and I'm so excited for you. As you start exploring the world of Cloudflare Workers, you'll find a treasure trove of tools, all packed conveniently into a single cloud platform. Imagine having everything you need at your fingertips. From managing your data effortlessly with our serverless database solutions, to handling complex data structures with ease using our vector store. And for those times when you need to wrangle your unstructured training data for your AI models, we've got just the thing. It's like stepping into one of those ultra convenient big box stores. Like literally everything you could ever need is right there for you. We even got free samples. Oh yeah, and of course, we have all of your favorite AI models deployed around the globe, just waiting for you to make them go brrr. Ready to unleash your creativity? Let's explore what's in store. AI requires a ton of training data, and well, you have to store that data somewhere. Now, storing that data reliably and actually being able to access it without breaking the bank, it's pretty critical, right? You'll most likely also need to access that data possibly from other services. Well, we have just the tool for you. It's called R2. What are two words that start with R that describe the best object storage ever? Robust and reliable. Yeah, that's it. R2 has a familiar API, but not the familiar charges that you see when you move data out. That's right, it's a zero egress fee object storage. All yours. Your leadership is going to be so happy. Every application you've ever used most likely relies on some sort of SQL database under the hood. So when your data needs a bit more structure, we got you. D1 is an incredibly fast, production-ready, serverless SQL database. It lives right next to your code, so querying it is lightning fast. So we have R2 D1. Whoa, R2 D1. Dang off by one errors. And just in case these are not the data solutions you're looking for, we have Vectorize. Vector databases have finally been getting the attention that they deserve. Historically, they've been used for recommendation systems and classification, anomaly detection tasks. But the most popular use case these days is semantic search. You can locate exactly what your users are looking for in their native language. Now, Vectorize is globally distributed, and it totally lets you accelerate and scale your AI workflows. It plays very nicely with all your retrieval augmented generation needs. Oh, speaking of generating, we have GPUs, lots of them. We also have a slew of popular models hosted and ready for you to hammer away at. Remember, we've got a global network, so your inference runs where your users actually are. They like that. In addition to not needing to manage all that hardware, we have a very straightforward API that lets you perform tasks that your users are gonna dig. The API is available seamlessly in Workers, but it's also readily available from the comfort of your existing applications. It's inference as a service, if you will. You could do things like generate images, code, and text all from natural language. You can create embeddings from your data, and you can recognize and create speech. You can translate to languages and analyze the sentiment. And I know that this sounds a lot like, but wait, there's more. But, well, there's more. If you've started running AI in production, you know that it's easy to rack up these costs quickly, but kind of hard to tell where they go. We have a full proxy that tracks AI usage and mitigates data loss. It's called AI Gateway. You can use this with any model, not just the ones hosted with us. With AI Gateway, you can increase your reliability by setting up fallback models. You can observe traffic patterns, usage logs, and of course, those costs that are associated with using these models. You'll gain new visibility into your traffic and those malicious actors that we keep seeing pop up. If you've been looking for a way to reduce costs, we'll help you cache and perform rate limiting as well. Your leaders are going to be ecstatic. We're honored to be on this journey with you as you blaze the path of new AI applications. We'll be here, doing as we always have, listening to your needs and then crafting the tools that help make the experience better for you and your users. Developers really love the platform, but you don't need to take my word for it. You should come hang out with us on our Discord. And when you're ready to learn more, head over to ai.cloudflare.com. All this to say, we love the internet, you love the internet, let's make it even better together.